Hi there, welcome to HR Shop Talk. I'm your host, Andrea Adams. This show delves into the details of HR through conversations with smart and experienced professionals who are doing the work. You can also find me on YouTube, where you can interact with me and others like yourself. Today, my guest is Susie Tomenchok. Susie is a developer and facilitator of entrepreneurial leadership at the Intrapreneurship Academy. That's a mouthful, where she teaches power skills. As a former executive at a large corporation, she understands the skills it takes to advance in an organization. And if that's not enough, she's also an executive coach and author. Hi, Susie. How are you?
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm happy to have you. And as I was telling you offline, I was facilitating a session recently, and instead of talking about interpersonal skills, I talked about power skills, and that was a really welcome change for my audience, not just me. So I'm excited about this conversation. So you've made a study of what you call, and I guess what's being called, power skills. What are power skills, and why should HR people care?
Yeah. So power skills are the things that people need to move through their careers. It's like, for instance, self-awareness, being really savvy about what your strengths are and understand your influence. Like those are some of the power skills that I think about. And I commonly get people who say, people tell me these things that I need, but I just don't know how to get them and how to work with them and how to build them in a way that's going to work for me in my career. So I think it's really important for HR folks to understand that these power skills, and it has to be a little bit of helping people understand how to get them, but they also have to lean in and take control of their career and use these skills in a way that's going to work for their trajectory, if you will.
Okay, so these are available, these power skills are available on the website and on your website. And so I'd like to go through them one at a time. And I mean, that's just going to take up a whole time there because I think they're all so valuable. So let's start with, and you've already mentioned it, lead with your strengths. What does lead with your strengths mean?
Yeah. So leading with your strengths is about having self-awareness about what you naturally do well, and really leaning into that. So understanding as a leader how, if you're a thinker, if you are a person that looks at data first and has to really think things through as you move forward, that's different than somebody that might be more of a relationship builder and how they move through and how they connect with their team. And so understanding where your strengths are and being able to not only message those and help your team understand you from that perspective, but how do you amplify those? How do you aim those in a way that is going to create the most success for you?
As a bit of an experiment here.
Sure.
And since you're a coach. Okay, so one of my strengths, I'm not sure this is a strength, but it's something I'm simultaneously criticized for, is I think out loud a lot. But I mean, it works for me and it works against me. For people who don't like to tolerate that, this is definitely a disadvantage. But for people who want to know where I'm going, this works. So if we're going to just think, I think out loud a lot. How do I rectify in my own mind that some people like it and some people don't, and lead with that?
Yeah, it's so good. And I have to tell you, I think out loud too. And I wish I thought inside, like I wish I was more like some of the people that I work with.
Right.
But just the fact of being able to say that, and what that means is, and you can communicate that to people, is what that means is when there's a new idea that we're just kind of figuring out, you're good with saying, hey, let's just talk about this. And you like to talk out loud and process it. And then somebody might be able to say to you, well, I'm not that way. I like to have all the information, maybe an outline, give me a little bit of time, and then I can come back to you and we can talk about it out loud. And so even having that feeling liberated in the way that says, this is me, this is what naturally comes to mind. Like you could probably relate to this. I'm like, that idea, it doesn't come out unless I'm able to talk about it. Like the ideas cannot percolate in here. I wish they did. So to get the best of me, I have to have you ask me a lot of questions. If you need more information about where we're going, ask me questions so you can give your team tools. And then it allows them to also say, well, I'm not that way. I'm this way. Can you honor me by having this approach, which is different?
That was helpful, actually, personally.
Good. Good. That's what I'm here for.
Hopefully my audience, at least having an example, that's helpful there too. All right. So the next of the power skills was taking time to clarify your purpose, vision, and values. We talk about that for organizations all the time. So as an individual, why is that important? And especially for those who aren't ready to take a leadership role yet, why is that important?
Yeah. We tend to tell people what they need to do in their role. And these are the skills you need for your role.
Yes.
When you have somebody that is, often companies call them high potential, they need to think about where do they want to go within their professional skill, because what you're doing in your role today, it may not be exactly what you need for the next step.
Yes.
So individuals need to be thoughtful about where do I want to build my professional muscle? Maybe right. I need to have more experience in presenting in front of the senior team. Maybe I want to lead a project, and maybe that's not in the role or the definition of the role, but having those other things that you want to do, that gives you a vision for where you want to go. Right. And being really clear about that, then you can seed those ideas to the people that can make that happen, to your boss, to other senior leaders, to say, hey, I'd really love this opportunity. And then they think of you when those opportunities come to fruition. So I really believe that these power skills are important because we need to give that onus to the employee to kind of be the CEO of their own journey. Mm-hmm. And that way it enables them to feel like they're doing something that's working for them within their organization. You know what that's going to do? It's going to keep them there. They're going to feel valued, and they understand their purpose and how it fits into the overall organization.
Okay. That was super helpful. I think great advice. Now, the next of the power skills is taking control of how you're perceived. Mm-hmm. So, okay, I know how important this is, but talk to me about this and how it fits with this idea that's super popular right now. If you have to be authentic, be yourself.
Yeah.
And now we're going to take control of how we're being perceived. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So I talk about it as professional brand and outward perceptions of you. And I don't mean like what you wear. I'm really talking about how do people see you? And paying attention to some of the clues, like what meetings do you get invited to? Do people trust you? Do they come to you with, what kind of questions do they come to you with? Do they ask you for advice? It's understanding, and sometimes through your strengths, how do people feel about you when they interact with you? And having that awareness around it, so that if you are communicating something that is not who or where you want to be, you can make those adjustments. Mm-hmm. And so it's a combination of getting feedback from people about those perceptions. It's looking at what those perceptions of your strengths might be. Mm-hmm. Like you and I being outwardly thinker, there might be a stigma to our brand that we don't listen well. Mm. And so just having the awareness around how it might feel to be somebody else that isn't in our skin, so that we can make the appropriate adjustments.
The first part of that is that take control piece. So again, I think out loud. And so I'm trying to listen to you and process your idea and make sure I really understand. Meanwhile, I discover later on that the way that's being perceived is I don't listen. What do I do about that? Mm-hmm. But is somebody out there who's not being perceived the way they want to, which I think is more often than not, do about that?
Yeah. It's pretty basic to think about just communicating it and being able to say, just so you're aware, when we work together, I tend to be a person that thinks out loud. And so this is what it looks like. And this is what it might feel like to you.
Mm.
And so then when it's in real life, then they understand that about you. And then they kind of understand how they need to engage with you versus somebody that doesn't and might say, and say, I need you to tell me exactly what the agenda is going to be so I can think it through. You have these rules or this agreement that you have with the other person just by having the openness to talk about it, about what your natural tendencies are.
All right, Susie. So the next one is corporate politics isn't about manipulation. And I can see why navigating politics is a power skills, but what does execution look like?
Again, it goes to awareness. It's thinking about who are the people in the organization that hold the influence? Mm-hmm. Who are the people that people naturally lead to follow? Mm-hmm. And who are the critical tasks given to? It's not necessarily the titles, it's the people that hold the influence that's important. Yeah. So we tend to look at corporate politics, and I often hear people say, I don't participate because I just don't believe. But just by making that statement, you're participating.
Yes.
And so just the being aware of and being okay with corporate politics or corporate workplace dynamics exists when the social network is broader than one-on-one. And so it is what it is. It's that dynamic. So we can make a change by thinking about how do you influence in a positive way? When you're aware of it and you see that somebody has an idea and you, instead of staying quiet, how can you support that person? How can you change the dynamics from negative to positive? So having that awareness about who holds that influence, what kind of influence do you have? And the other thing about corporate politics is it's very personal, depending on, the corporate politics at my level is different than my boss's level and the people below. Everybody has a very unique experience. Mm-hmm. So when you think about when you have influence, how do you create positive outputs by playing in a way that's good for the organization, for the team, and not self-serving? It really is. Those negative corporate politics happen when people are insecure, feeling unstable. Right. They don't know what's going on, and it's those times. So then when you see a lot of negative going on, how do you change that? Maybe it's a matter of making sure people understand their boundaries, making sure that people have what they need, asking the questions, open-ended questions about what's the experience for you. So it's something that we shouldn't avoid. It's something that we should really think about. How do we change it if it is negative?
Interesting. The next one is don't be afraid of feedback, both giving and receiving. How do you grow from feedback versus recognizing that the feedback is really a signal that you need to move on?
That's a good question. So we often think about giving feedback, and that's where we focus on is it's the best way to give feedback, but it's also being really thoughtful about how we receive feedback. Right. It's not just the words that are said, but how do we react and respond to it? Mm-hmm. Because we can either open up that funnel by being receptive, or so as soon as somebody gets defensive, you don't want to give them feedback again. But I think the key is understanding our triggers, understanding when we're open to it. And we tend to wait to think about that until the feedback is needed or when the feedback is being given. But leaders can have a great conversation with their team beforehand and say, what is helpful to you? Do you like feedback in the moment? Do you like feedback in this way? And have an agreement to it so that people can think it through. And then you can opt in to different scenarios that work for you. You're not opting out, but you're saying, in the moment, I may need some time. If you come to me and say, can I give you feedback now? If I say, can I just have a half hour or an hour? That'll help me get in a space that I'm more open to it. Mm-hmm. So having that agreement and discussion beforehand really helps in getting both parties really ready to be receptors and givers in the best way they can.
Brene Brown has something about, decide in advance who you're going to take feedback from, especially negative feedback. Are you familiar with this at all?
Well, the key is, and I'm sure Brene has came from it from this angle, knowing her, is trust.
Yes.
It's really hard to take feedback if you're not engaged in a trusting relationship.
Right.
And yes, if you're in a positional power and you work for me, yes, I may feel like I can say, hey, Andrea, I'm giving you this feedback, and you may hate me. You may not be open to it, but I'm still just going to deliver it one way, and I'm going to check the box and say it was received.
Yes.
But that's not really the best way. And one of the triggers, or not one of the things to really think about, is it's not just delivering it. It's saying, so help me, what did you hear? How did you understand that? Or coming back to them later and saying, how are you putting this into place? Or saying, I'm going to give you this feedback. I'm going to give you some time, and I want you to come back, and I want you to give me some examples of how you're going to integrate this or change this. And then that way we tend to just think about it one way, but when we listen to understand the other side, then we know if it's been received in a way that we want it to be received.
But the next one, keeping us on track, is self-advocacy. You say self-advocacy is essential to achieving goals. So what does that look like in action?
Yeah. Wow. I am such an advocate of being a self-advocate. And it not only is, it's not just selfish. When you, within an organization, think about how you want to advocate, you're advocating for yourself. You can advocate for your team. You can advocate for others. Mm-hmm. When you're thoughtful about it and you open up that awareness about opportunities around you, then when those opportunities show themselves, you can lean in. And some of the things that I talk to people about having that awareness is, well, we talked about anchoring your ideas, being really clear about where you're going, and telling people. I had a CFO. I heard her speak at a leadership conference a couple of weeks ago, and she said she's so surprised that people don't come to her more and just tell her where they want to go. Right. Because she said, I'm in a lot of meetings where I understand the opportunities at a more macro level, and the people that come to me and say, this is what I want to learn, or this is what I want to experience in, I think of them automatically. And then I give them the opportunities. So we often think that people live in our head, and they don't. So when we're clear and we put ourselves out there, we actually enable people to find opportunities for us. And it often feels really icky. I get people that say, oh, I don't like to think about that. It's selfish. But we're also then putting the onus on somebody else to think for us. And that's not their job. It's our job to be our own CEO of our own journey. And so having that lens around advocacy and being clear about where you're going, then when those opportunities show themselves, you're ready to articulate that in an objective way, not in a selfish way, but for the good of the company, for the good of the role, for the good of the team. It's all in how you frame it.
Okay. The final one is building a strong network makes you a valuable resource. How does your network make you a strong resource? And I know so many people feel deeply uncomfortable with networking. What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I know. And people often go to this cocktail party where they know nobody, and what are they going to talk about? And networking is something that has to happen on a regular basis. And it doesn't have to feel like you're meeting a bunch of people that you don't know. And I believe that networking is important outside of your organization as well as inside your organization. Who do you need to know? Who's right ahead of you that you can learn from? Who's somebody that you can help? Who do you need to know, or who needs to know of you? And so it's not in a way of manipulation, or I'm going to ask for this, or it's going to be self-serving, or it's going to feel awkward. It's just making a connection, building a relationship, both internally and externally, and with the intention of what can you do for that other person. And so it allows you to get different perspectives on yourself. It allows you to understand more of the business, because if you do it internally, you're getting to know other aspects of the business and understanding how it all fits. So it helps in that way. And then you are seen by more people that get to know you. And then that can help you in the future when your role expands or you're reaching out for additional support. You have those established relationships, and you're seen as an influencer, and you're trusted because you took the time to reach out.
Yes.
So that signal alone creates or makes the person feel like you're important enough that I want to get to know you. So when you can frame it in a way that doesn't feel self-serving, it can feel better. And then that person can also understand the value. And one of the best practices that I do is I always ask when I network, what can I do for you? Always. And I don't even know what for sure that will mean, but that way it feels like the service comes first.
Okay. Final question. And to close off, this has been super great. Can you tell us how someone could learn more about these power skills?
Sure. So Intrapreneurial Leadership is the course that I teach, and it's provided through and you're right, it is a mouthful, the Intrapreneurship Academy. And I'm not going to say it 10 times fast, so don't have me. And that's through the Cable Center. Okay. So that's where all those, we have an 8-week program. It's all virtual, and it goes through each one. And what's great is it also combines a cohort of like-minded professionals. And so they also learn from one another and their experience and interaction with the content. So it's a great program.
I will put links to that in the show notes.
Perfect.
Well, thanks, Susie. That whole topic is so welcome. We've reached the end of this episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time when I talk shop with another insightful guest.